Tonight, a battle for survival. The mass exodus of refugees from Ukraine continues as Russia's attacks intensify amid a seventh day of fighting.
We have a lot of families who accepted refugees and they need, food, supplies, etc.
Medical supplies are being sent from Scotland to the front line. Good evening. As Russia intensifies its attacks on Ukrainian cities, the United Nations estimates more than 800,000 people have now fled the country. Ukrainians living here in Scotland say they are struggling to get relatives out of the war zone.
The First Minister says it would be shameful if the UK does not play a full part in welcoming refugees here. Nicola Sturgeon was speaking as Scotland prepares to send its first consignment of medical aid to the country. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
In the city of Kharkiv, there is no let-up in the bombardment. Dozens were reported killed in this attack on a university building. As the shelling continued this morning, the United Nations estimated around 870,000 people have already fled Ukraine. But many more are struggling to get out. Daria has family in eastern Ukraine. Despite the UK expanding its visa waiver scheme, she says the process to get them to Scotland is far from straightforward.
I'm ready to go to any border of Ukraine, tomorrow to bring her over. And if it was the matter of just proving that she is my sister at the border, it would have made my life so much easier. But that is not possible. We still have to settle in near one of the visa application centres for Britain and then wait indefinite amount of time to try and get that permit, because without the permit, she would not be allowed to board any of the flights.
So in this warehouse you have 24/7 shifts?
The First Minister wants the UK government to go further in helping Ukrainians seeking safety here. Nicola Sturgeon was visiting a distribution centre, preparing to send almost £3 million worth of medical equipment to Ukraine. More than 500,000 items, including bandages and ventilators, will be flown out tomorrow. The First Minister wants the UK to follow other European countries in relaxing entry rules to help those fleeing the violence.
No country is going to be able to deal with that alone in the period ahead. No small group of countries bordering Ukraine are going to be able to deal with that alone. All countries in the democratic world are going to have to come together and respond collectively. And it will be shameful if the UK is not in there playing its full part with as open an offer to those needing refuge from Ukraine as the European Union and other countries across the world.
Initially, all I could do was just say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, even though I know it's not directly my fault.
For Russians living in Scotland like Anna, the past week has brought feelings of guilt.
All I can just say, my heart is with you. I think about Ukrainians all the time, every day. And I'm doing all I can. This week, our bookshop, all the sales we make in the bookshop, we're going to donate to British Red Cross Ukraine Crisis Appeal.
As the violence intensifies in Ukraine, here the resolve to help grows stronger. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
And we're staying with that help. Much of the aid being donated and collected in Scotland will be taken to Poland, where hundreds of thousands of refugees have crossed the border from Ukraine.
A makeshift centre for vital supplies has been set up there. Good Morning Britain correspondent Nick Dixon has been to see the efforts to help those in desperate need.
Well, the donations and the supplies are piling up in Scotland, and ultimately in the coming days and weeks ahead, these are the kind of places where they're all going to end up. This is a warehouse in the southeast of Poland, very close to the Ukraine border, and it's been requisitioned by the Polish army really for its sheer size and scale. They're able to accommodate literally thousands of people here, and that's exactly what's happening at the moment. The organisers and the volunteers here tell me they have literally no idea how many people, because there are buses arriving, as you can see here, every few minutes with hundreds of people inside. So the kind of donations coming from Scotland will certainly be welcome here.
At the weekend it was a disaster because it was a complete mess because we weren't, we weren't prepared yet for such a huge number of refugees. And today we are trying to sort it out, There are a lot of women with children, as you know, because men stayed and they fight for the country. And now we have to provide for the women and children.
And there are countries where I'm from in Scotland.
Yeah.
People are fundraising, they're gathering products together to send over here. Are you looking to get that kind of help from countries like Scotland?
We are accepting, of course. But today there were 2 transports from Germany, and 1 transport I diverted into my town because I live 40 kilometers away from here and I teach at a university, and we have a point that they can, and they leave the provisions and the medical help, hygiene, for example, and they leave that there because we have a lot of families who accepted refugees and they need, food, supplies, etc.
Well, there's well in excess of 50,000 people coming across the border into Poland each day, and they're certainly not overwhelmed here, but it is exceptionally busy, organised chaos to a degree. And what the organisers and the volunteers are telling me, not just here but at multiple different refugee centres throughout this area, is yes, they have donations coming in, they have supplies, they have food, water, clothing and baby supplies and toys as well, but they desperately need more.
Nick Dixon reporting from Poland. Well, meanwhile, Boris Johnson has accused Vladimir Putin's regime of already committing war crimes in Ukraine by bombing innocent people. The Prime Minister was responding to a question from the SNP's Westminster leader, who believes the Russian president should be prosecuted in The Hague. Well, live now to our Westminster correspondent, Catherine Sampson. And Catherine, a very different tone to Prime Minister's questions today.
Yes, that's right. When you saw the MPs arriving today, most were wearing blue and yellow lapel badges. That's the colours of Ukraine. Some came dressed completely in blue and yellow, including the former Prime Minister, Theresa May. Now, over the last weeks, the last months, we've become so used to hearing these really angry, bitter sessions of Prime Minister's questions. Today, so different. It all began with a rare standing ovation in support of Ukraine, in support of their ambassador, who was looking on at MPs from the gallery up above.
I want to welcome to our gallery the Ukraine ambassador.
Applause of any kind is usually banned here. Today it rang out for nearly a minute. Solidarity for Ukraine from all sides. Unity too over whether Vladimir Putin should be prosecuted by the International Criminal Court.
Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. And one day soon, Putin must face justice in The Hague.
What we have seen already from Vladimir Putin's regime in the use of the munitions that they have already been dropping on innocent civilians, Mr. Speaker, in my view, already fully qualifies as a war crime. And I know that the ICC prosecutor is already investigating, and I'm sure the whole House will support that.
This is the aftermath of an attack on a TV tower in Kiev next to a Holocaust memorial. Some, with eyes on history, say sanctions on Russians linked to Putin have been too slow.
I don't want war, nobody wants war, but we're not even sanctioning Sergei Shoigu, the Russian defence minister, yet, nor Igor Osipov, the commander of the Black Sea Fleet, or Uzmanov, Sechin, Peskov, Abramovich, Roldugin, or the members of the Russian Duma who voted for this war.
The Prime Minister said he wouldn't comment on individual cases, but claimed actions already taken are having an impact.
What we will publish in addition, Mr. Speaker, is a full list of all those associated with the Putin regime.
The blue and yellow of Ukraine was also on display at President Biden's State of the Union address, where there was a similar show of support.
Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine.
Scenes like this are rare, but actions will matter more than applause.
Thank you.
Well, once again today, protests in support of Ukraine have been taking place all over the world, including in Edinburgh, where our political editor Colin Mackay is tonight. Colin.
It's a cold, dreich night here, but nevertheless, 100 or so people have come out to protest against the invasion of Ukraine. Many of them are actually Ukrainians living in Scotland protesting against that invasion of their homeland, but some of them are also from Russia, including Dr. Alexandra Smith, who's a reader in Russian studies at Edinburgh University and a member of the Scotland-Russia Forum. How do you feel about Putin's actions invading your neighbour?
Well, I'm quite angry. It's devastating. It is painful to watch the news, and I'm totally supportive of brave Ukrainians who resist at every level. And also I'm very supportive of Russians who protest against this violence. It is unthinkable to see all these tragic events happening in the 21st century.
How difficult is it to be a Russian abroad at the moment?
Well, it's very difficult because we can't, from here, we can't just go and demonstrate, of course, there, but also it's just very frustrating because a lot of ordinary Russians are not really responsible for these horrible, tragic events. So it is the government who's organizing all this, and a lot of Russians who even live in Russia, they're going to be hit by the sanctions, by the isolation. So it's very sad, and for me it's very sad to see that many cultural events were cancelled all over the world, because for me it was important to have this channel open, because cultural diplomacy was always helping people to understand each other, to have a dialogue, and now it is not possible for many talented people even to come and perform.
But also, as we heard from Anna and Ewan's report earlier on, very emotional.
Yes, very emotional, yes. I mean, I cry quite a lot when I watch the news. It's very emotional because it's just not fair, because people have a right to think about their own countries in a way that suits their cultural traditions, their values and so on. So nobody has a right to take this away from them.
Dr. Smith, thanks for joining us on STV News, and from the protest here in Edinburgh, twinned with Kiev, back to you in the studio.